All right, guys, what's up? It's Jack, and welcome back to another video. So I want you to picture this real quick. I want you to picture Grand Theft Auto 6 at $80 and playing at 30 frames per second. Now, I have to ask you right off the bat, is this okay with you? Because for some people, the price tag might be too steep, and yet for some other people it's perfect because it's Grand Theft Auto. They know what they're getting. Rockstar has a reputation, and on top of that, they're willing to sacrifice the frames at least temporarily because hey, it's Grand Theft Auto. And at the same time, there was one point in time, a significant amount of years ago, to where every single game that we were getting was 30 frames per second. Okay. And at the same time, there's the other side of the fence to where people will be like, hey, it's the year 2026. Every game at the very, very least should be 60 frames per second. Every single game that gets released should be optimized, instead of, releasing with a bunch of bugs or unoptimized and then patched later, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, at the same time, despite the fact that the game itself is made from Rockstar and it is GTA 6, $80 for them is too steep, and nobody's, or people from this side of the fence are not going to be willing to spend $80 on the game, despite the fact that it is what it is. So there's a multitude of combinations of thoughts that go through people's minds when it comes to all of this stuff. And that's what this video is about today, because quite frankly, we know that Grand Theft Auto 6 has been delayed numerous times, and we've also found out more recently that they are basically double downing on, on them releasing on the 19th of this year. So that's great. Finally, Grand Theft Auto 6 gets to be released. And, a lot of players that are fans, can rejoice. There's no doubt that the game is going to break multiple records and all that kind of stuff. And as I mentioned previously, it's like with companies and these, these businesses, because gaming is a business when you think about it, if they know they could get away with something, they're going to do it. You know what I'm saying? So, and of course, there's no doubt in my mind, especially in the long run, and if Rockstar did it right from a development standpoint and everything like that, I have no doubt, right, that in the long run, or let's put it this way, let me rephrase that. I have little doubt, I have little doubt that, gamers, won't be happy. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of the gamers, when it comes to Grand Theft Auto 6, absolutely are going to be happy in the long run, especially since Grand Theft Auto Online is going to be released like give or take a month later on, or however long it's going to be. I guess we don't know yet. But as we get closer and closer to the release of the game, as well as seeing some of the other things that go on with other games that, like for instance, Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight, the specs for on PC side of things are insane in terms of what the specs are. And plus you need frame gen for the game to reach 30 frames per second at 1080p. This is a huge red flag. The fact that there was an IGN video made, it was like a final preview before launch or something like that. And I saw a video by Luke Stevens reviewing that video, and that video, like the gameplay, you could tell was choppy in a multitude of areas, and Luke pointed that out, but the person at IGN that was covering it did not mention it one single time, right? But I know what you guys are going to say, Jack, it's IGN, you shouldn't trust them, or et cetera, et cetera. And I get it, and I really haven't, but at the same time, I still like to kind of take a peek, but I was watching Luke's reaction to that video more than anything else. But he paused that video many times, and he saw that the gameplay was choppy, and chances are this was from the event, obviously, that that happened more recently, that people were playing on rigs that were probably really powerful rigs. You know what I mean? So it's like, if it's being choppy on a powerful rig, then what will it do on console? You know what I mean? What is it going to do on console? What is it going to do on your home rig? Because I guarantee you, even though that there's going to be a few people in the comment section that are going to be saying that they probably have a 5090 and in a current gen CPU and a shit ton of RAM, that's not the case for most people. You know what I mean? Most people don't have those kind of specs. And not only that, in this day and age, when you look at games like, what was it? I think Borderlands 4 is a perfect example. Like, people with 5090s in Borderlands 4 were having trouble running that game, at a pretty decent, frame rate and optimization and all that kind of stuff as well. So it's like, holy crap, it's like we're paying more, we've got more expensive hardware, and it's like, the games are not able to run or whatnot. And then of course they're promoted as being the best thing since sliced bread, and then by the time the game comes out, it's like, we get this. and then you either wait for a patch until it finally does get optimized way later, or it just kind of never happens and you don't care anymore because you've already moved on, right? So again, there are those people, believe it or not. I don't know what a percentage of those people are, but they're willing to sacrifice, and they don't care. They really don't care. They just want the gaming experience, even if it's a badder quality, you know. But for most of us, especially if you're going to dish out $70 to $80, and let alone if you go above that for whatever reason, whether it's a deluxe edition to get early access, or whether it's the fact that it's, you want all the bells and whistles possible, with a GTA 6, if it ends up costing that much or whatever. It's like, people have their reasons as to why they will dish out money, even if they don't have it. Like, even if they don't have the money or whatnot, they will put themselves in credit card debt, or they'll find a way to borrow it, or whatever the deal is. Like, seriously, like, people will do that shit, and of course, let's not mention, you got people out there that are taking their mommy and daddy's credit cards, and buying these games and shit like that. Because if they can do it with microtransactions, they're going to do it with credit cards. But the thing is that when it comes to this, there's a multitude of ways you can go at it. But at the end of the day, money talks and bullshit walks, and that's why one of these companies are doing that. And I've said it time and time again. When art turns into a business, and when greed gets out of control within that business, that is at core art, that is when the art itself becomes compromised and starts diminishing in quality. So, and this doesn't just apply to video games. This applies to every form of art, including movies and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really a shame whenever stuff like that does happen. But with that being said, Grand Theft Auto has a big reputation. But I want to know in the comment section down below, first and foremost, will you play GTA 6 at 30 frames per second, especially if it kind of struggles to maintain 30? That's another thing too. Will you still play it? And of course, will you buy the game if it's at $80, or dare I say it, even more? And a lot of people are saying that 70 itself is too steep as it is. So it's like, there's a multitude of reasons, including greed, as to why gaming prices have gone up. So, but I want to know what your thoughts are and what your opinions are on this, and what you have to say to all this, and where you stand specifically. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Thank you all for taking the time to watch and or listen. And of course, for those of you that comment as well. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.